The wind rattled the loose window panes of the small farmhouse, and the night pressed close as a held breath. Inside, a single candle flickered on the wooden table, its flame thin but stubborn, casting long shadows on the walls worn smooth by years of living. Sarah Whitmore sat beside that candle, her hands folded, her eyes fixed on the door. She had lit the candle at sunset, just as her mother once had, whispering a quiet prayer the way women in her family always did when waiting for someone who mattered. Outside, the year was 1863, and the war had taken almost everything it touched: sons, husbands, certainty, sleep. Her youngest boy, Thomas, lay curled on a pallet near the hearth, breathing soft and steady. He was too young to understand why his father had kissed his hair goodbye months ago and walked down the dirt road with a borrowed rifle and a promise to return. Too young to know why his mother stared at the dark as if she could see through it. The candle guttered, then steadied. Sarah remembered another night, years before, when the house had been full of laughter. Her husband, Matthew, had stood at that same table, trimming a wick and teasing her for worrying too much. "Morning always comes," he had said. "No need to keep watch all night." But tonight was not like those nights. Tonight the silence felt heavy, and every sound carried meaning. The creak of the floorboards, the hiss of the flame, the distant howl of a dog somewhere beyond the fields. She rose and moved to the window, peering into the moonlit road. Empty. Just the pale dust and the fence posts standing like tired soldiers. She went back to the table and sat again. The candle had burned low, wax pooling at its base. She should have saved it, she knew. Candles were not easy to come by anymore, but some things were worth more than careful counting. Hours passed. The clock on the wall ticked on, stubborn as the flame. Sarah's thoughts wandered to the letter she had received weeks earlier, the paper creased and smudged. Matthew's handwriting had been shaky but familiar. He had written about cold nights and long marches, about missing home, about dreaming of the smell of fresh bread and the sound of Thomas laughing in the yard. At the end, he had written just one line more: "If ever you wait for me, let there be a light." The candle trembled as if it had heard her thoughts. Near midnight, Thomas stirred and mumbled something in his sleep. Sarah crossed the room and brushed his hair back, her fingers lingering there. "He'll come home," she whispered, though she did not know to whom she was speaking, her son, herself, or the quiet house. She returned to the table. The flame was smaller now, bent low, but still alive. Then she heard it. A sound so faint she nearly dismissed it as hope playing tricks on her. Footsteps, slow, uneven, coming from the road. Her heart caught. She stood, hardly daring to breathe, and moved to the door. The footsteps grew closer, paused, then continued. A shadow passed the window. Sarah opened the door. A man stood there, thin and dust-covered, his coat hanging loose on his frame. His face was worn, lined deeper than when she last saw it, but his eyes, those were the same. Tired, gentle, alive. Matthew swayed, gripping the doorframe. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The night seemed to hold its breath with them. "I saw the light," he said at last, his voice rough as gravel. "I thought I was dreaming." Sarah stepped forward, her hands on his face, her tears warm against his cold skin. "I kept it burning. I said I would." Behind them, the candle flared once, bright and sudden, as if gathering the last of its strength. Then the flame softened, shrinking to a glowing ember before finally going dark. Morning came quietly, with pale light slipping through the windows and birds calling from the fence line. The candle stood melted down to its base, spent and silent. But the house was full again. Matthew slept in the old bed, breathing deep and even. Thomas curled against his father's side, one small hand clutching his sleeve. Sarah sat nearby, watching them both, the weight in her chest easing for the first time in months. Outside, the road lay empty, but it no longer looked lonely. Some things, Sarah knew, were not meant to last forever. They were meant to guide, to comfort, to stand against the dark for as long as they could. She picked up the stub of the candle and wrapped it carefully in cloth, not as a thing to be used again, but as something to remember. Because even when the flame is gone, what it stood for can still carry a family safely into the light of morning.